Gayatri Narasimhan, and I'm Service Leader at Global Value Web. I'm delighted to be hosting today's session. It's a pleasure to have you all join us for this webinar. We are really excited to delve into the much resonated industry topic, and I believe this session will be incredibly valuable for all of you. So in this webinar, we will be covering topics ranging from the digital transformation journey, speaking about the challenges in the industry, the landscape, the importance of having a clean data when you transfer from paper to paperless, the digital solutions that are available in the market and their connectedness, the lab digital ecosystem, the key drivers for the transformation, and also the success measure for the same. Please feel free to ask questions through the chat box or either by raising your hand. So now I would like to introduce the key speakers. Durga Prasad. So he is our Senior Solution Consultant Implementation. With over decades of experience in both pharma and lab informatics, he combines practical experiences with a clear and approachable style. As a Senior Solution Consultant, he also bridges the gap between the lab operations and technology through his expertise domain, and also helps in delivering the straightforward solutions using partners' products combined with GVW value-added services. Welcome, Durga Prasad. We have our co-speaker, Sudarshan Mukund. He is the product lead and digital marketing lead from Agram Technologies Private Limited. So GVW and Agram Technologies are the industry trusted partnership for digital transformation, and we were helping our clients throughout that process. So Sudarshan, with his profound experience, he simplifies complex lab process with Agram solutions, making them accessible to diverse audience, both in GxP and non-GxP labs. He also oversees the company's digital initiatives. Welcome, Sudarshan. So before we delve into the topic, we just have a quick video that shows the current situation of lab and also the expectations from lab when we say about paper to paperless journey. Let's do that.
What if this is your current lab situation? Are you buried in paper? For years, labs relied on paper-based methods, slowing down processes, increasing errors, complicating compliance, and stifling innovation. But imagine a different reality, where paper is transformed into pixels, manual steps replaced by automation, and chaos turned into clarity. A reality that empowers your teams, accelerates your workflows, and unlocks the true potential of your lab's data.
Now that we have quickly seen the recap of a lab scenario and the expected paper to pixels evolution, let's get started into the webinar. Over to DP.
Hi everyone, welcome to once again today's webinar. So as you can see here, how the paper-based processes are creating chaos in regulatory environments. So just see what are the challenges among GxP environments. So these are the common challenges from non-compliance risks to security disaster risk. So which causing troubles in GxP environments. So non-compliance risk. So we all know that regulatory authorities are concentrating on ALCOA principles: attributable, legible, contemporaneous, original, accurate, complete, available, and enduring. But if you see paper-based process are not adhering to these standards, where causing a non-compliance risk mostly, and these risks may be missing entries, illegible handwriting, lack of audit trails, even falsified timestamps, and efficiency and productivity issues also we can see, because there will be a duplication of data where the analyst will enter the data in multiple times. There is no connectivity between the instruments and solutions, which is causing efficiency and a wasted effort, we can say. Traceability errors also a major concern for GxP environments, because the human errors like typos, miscalculations, and also traceability errors, because if you are not following the good documentation practices, so this is difficult to trace who done the changes, when they made, and why. So which is impacting severity of traceability. And coming to data accessibility and challenges, so there won't be any connectivity and there won't be any integrated digital flow, so which is causing data integrity challenges, because paper-based workflows they don't serve real-time data, so which is difficult to track data where it is present. And resource and cost implications. So as the time grows, it is difficult to store the paper-based workflows or physical records. So over the time, so you need to ensure there will be sufficient cabinet to store the data, and you need more manpower and more resources to track the data and to store physical records, which is a burden for organizations. And security and disaster risk. So when you are having physical based processes and physical records, so it's naturally you can store the data, or you can misplace the data, or you can destroy the data. And also a simple incident like accidents like a spillage of chemicals, or maybe a fire accident, or maybe a flooding, so can cause a permanent data loss. Unlike if you see a digital solution where data can have multiple backups like data archiving, but in the paper-based processes, you don't have any such kind of backup methodologies, so which causes a disaster and security risks. So you can't have paper at all time, so you can't store the paper at all time. So now we have discussed about different challenges. So just look at some statistics which proving that the challenges. So we can see different statistics on screen, like 8.8% average transcription error to what is the lab limitation due to legacy systems. So 71% is there. And most concerned parties, 65% FDA warnings are due to because of data integrity issues. So which is a current rising point. So as you can see, now I have discussed about the challenges and current landscape where the 17% labs are only mostly digital today, from starting to ending, where they have integrated their digital systems. Only 17% they are integrated. So, but we have to discuss what is the drivers that taking laboratories from going paper to paperless. So let's discuss briefly about those key drivers, why they are going from paper to paperless. So these are different key drivers, from compliance to audit readiness to cost savings and ROI. So if you see digital solutions, unlike paper-based processes, they are all compliant to 21 CFR Part 11. So when you have this type of guidelines, so you can track 21 CFR Part 11, you can confidently say that you can pass inspections and you can reduce 483 observations. Nothing but you are ready for audit at all times. And data integrity traceability. So as I discussed earlier, Alcoa principles. So all the systems, all the solutions are compliant to Alcoa principles. And also version control will be there, access management will be there. So which enables a complete data integrity for the regulatory environments. Efficiency and error reduction. So if you see paper-based processes where the data will be duplicated, time-consuming and manual checks, but in the paper-based processes, paperless solutions offers integrated workflows and real-time data checks, so which increase the efficiency, and obviously error reduction will be possible because you are entering the data at one place which is integrated with others, so which is a beneficial for the organizations. And productivity and throughput. So when you have digital solutions in your lab, you don't need to concentrate on administrative tasks, so you can concentrate on value-added tasks like productivity. You can gain productivity, and with the same workforce, you can achieve more. You can increase the throughput. And if you have integrated workflow, like if you, for example, if you integrate LIMS with other systems, with other instruments, so that your throughput will increase dramatically. And the collaboration, data access. So present days where we are dealing with CROs, CMOs, and where multiple clients involved. So the digital solutions are coming with shared data and searchable data. So thanks to the SaaS-based solutions also, so where you can access the solutions globally, so that data will be at your fingertips whenever you want. You can collaborate easily. You can have the data readily available. And why you are adopting to digital solutions? The first and foremost thing is to optimize the cost. So when you are adopting the digital solutions, by reducing the manpower and by controlling the cost, you're increasing your return on investment. So for example, if you studies are indicating that if you implement electronic laboratory notebook in your laboratory, so obviously you can reduce 9 hours of scientist time, which the studies are saying, and also you can expect a return on investment within the 6 months itself. So these are the key drivers which I can say are consolidatively affecting why GxP labs are now transforming from paper to paperless.
Yeah.
So these collective drivers are turning labs into smart labs, which is a need of the hour.
Having said that, it would be interesting for us to see like the voice of the participants. So we have one poll here. We would like to understand like what would be the biggest wish for the lab people to happen when they see the digital transmission. So you can see the poll put up in the meeting chat. So we have another 10 seconds to see the responses coming in. So I'm repeating, the poll questions were put up in the meeting chat. You can please see the chat box and the question is on your screen. What's your biggest wish to happen in digital lab? So it's not much surprising. Everyone has given majoritarily like they would like to track every change that happens, because as Durga Prasad is explaining about the data integrity. So if you don't capture, it is not done. It's a known myth in the pharmaceutical industry. So that is where we understand like they would like to see every track of change that's happening in their lab, followed by reduction in the hours that is spent for the activities. Yeah. So it would be much interesting for us to deep dive into the digital solutions. Over to Sudarshan.
Yeah. Thanks, Gayatri, for the poll. So now we'll be taking a look at digital solution landscape, that is the laboratory informatics market as a whole. What solutions are available for labs to go digital, and what are the different avenues and solutions that they can make use of in a GxP environment to become compliant and paperless. So far, we have been looking at the various challenges and the key drivers for going paperless. Now we'll be taking a look at different solutions that address different metrics within the laboratory workspace. And each of these solutions tackle a different need within the laboratory to make your lab digitally enabled. The first solution that we'll be taking a look at is a LIMS solution, which is also called as a Laboratory Information Management System. So a LIMS solution is more of a structured application, as in it is extremely sample centric. So it can handle all your tests, various samples that are coming into your lab, what tests are being performed, what specifications are being maintained, what results are being entered. All such things can be managed by the Laboratory Information Management System in a secure, digital and compliant manner. So this is the main function of the LIMS. The LIMS as a whole is a very structured application. It can handle all the basic aspects of your laboratory, right from sample management to testing to reporting in a paperless manner. And the next solution that we'll be taking a look at is the electronic lab notebook. So the electronic lab notebook is more of a task-centric application. So while the LIMS can record the final results of a test, let's say you're performing a particular test for a finished product or a raw material or a QC sample, the LIMS can record when the sample came in, what tests were performed for the sample, what parameters were recorded, what results were recorded. All such things can be recorded by the LIMS. But the execution part generally is handled in the ELN. Instead of printing out manual test data sheets, or instead of printing out your experiment SOPs, instrument raw data and everything in paper and then manually filling it out, all such things can be digitally handled within the ELN. So the primary function of the ELN is to record and execute tests, experiments, assays, analysis, everything digitally in a paperless format. So the LIMS can handle structured data for samples. The ELN can handle tasks in a digital manner. So these two are the first two parts of the application. And the third application that I want to talk about is the SDMS. So the SDMS is also called as a scientific data management system. So what does a scientific data management system do? So this is a data-centric application, as in order to supply the LIMS and ELN with the required instrument data for your day-to-day work. Let's say you have a bunch of analytical instruments in your lab, such as your chromatography instruments or pH meters or balances, or if you have some other types of instruments within your lab and you would like to collate all the data that is generated by these instruments for several runs of samples and readily share such information with every digital system in your lab in a compliant manner, that is where the SDMS comes in. So the SDMS is a data-centric application that can enable instrument integration and connect all the analytical instruments within your lab and have the data in a single central secure repository and readily share that information with a LIMS and electronic lab notebook solution. So these are the three solutions that make up today's digital solution landscape. Of course, apart from this, you also have other solutions such as an MES or an ERP or an SAP, but these solutions are designed to seamlessly get connected with such other solutions to make your lab digitally enabled. And these solutions are also generic in nature. They are not specific for any specific type of lab, so it can be used for any use case, such as QC, R&D, manufacturing, etc. And they are these days being adopted by industries across various verticals, such as pharmaceuticals, CROs, healthcare, forensics, dairy, food and beverage, cell and gene. So wide variety of industries, even from GxP and non-GxP environments, are adopting such solutions. The only difference is choosing the right solution for your lab if you are a GxP regulated environment. So what LIMS or what electronic lab notebook you need to choose in order to make your lab compliant. So that is the main question that we will be addressing through some examples in the coming slides.
Thank you, Sudarshan. Now that it's very clear that do we have many solutions in market, of which the LIMS, ELN and SDMS still play a very major role in data connectedness and also bringing the digital landscape. So we conducted a LinkedIn survey a couple of weeks back to understand the market pulse about the digital transformation and also about the digital solutions that we would like to bring to the participants' view. So one of the interesting question which I can correlate to the solution slide is, so which solution do they actually believe is best for managing the dynamic lab data? So it's not surprising to see that majoritarily the people are seeing the lab analysts are really feeling like they are in need of both LIMS and ELN, where they see that as the best solution that helps them in managing the dynamic data. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So now that we have seen what each solution can do, we have a brief on what the LIMS can do, what electronic lab notebook can do, what an SDMS can do. Now I'll be going through some use cases that some real world companies have adopted by using these solutions and how they have benefited by using these solutions. So we'll be starting with the LIMS solution first and how an organization went from fragmented processes to unified automation by using a LIMS solution. So the first example that we are going to be seeing is a global drug discovery unit. We are just using a generic example to mention what industry this particular client is from, what solution they adopted, and what was the value proposition that they gained. So this drug discovery unit adopted the LIMS solution for automated request handling. So whatever samples that are coming inside the lab, they need to be labeled, they need to be traced right from when they are coming into the lab, what tests are being performed, where it is being stored, how many aliquots are done, where it is stored, where it is distributed. So the entire life cycle of the sample needs to be tracked right from receipt till report generation. So the LIMS handled this entire thing in an automated manner through barcode labeling. So when the sample comes in, the analyst registers what type of sample it is. It goes into the lab, it goes through a series of tests, then it is handed over to someone for review and approval, then it is stored in a secure storage system. So through this barcoding system, the lab is able to track the status of the sample right from when it comes into the lab, right from where the test is done, where it is stored, where it is dispensed, etc., providing end-to-end traceability. So the big advantage that this particular client gained through implementing a LIMS solution is having end-to-end traceability on what happened to the sample over a period of time. It also improved their efficiency in the sense that these kind of companies handle large volumes of samples at the same time. Hundreds of thousands of samples come in at the same day, and manually recording such information in paper will be extremely cumbersome and also inefficient in reducing their sample throughput. So by recording everything in a digital manner, they have increased their efficiency and also increased their ability to test multiple samples and register and manage multiple samples at the same time. And since this LIMS solution is seamlessly integrated with other digital lab systems such as an SDMS or an electronic lab notebook, any instrument runs that are performed for the sample that is being brought into the lab can be seamlessly brought in from the SDMS, and any experiment executions can be handled in the ELN. So the entire process is covered digitally, which can enhance their processes by a lot. And overall reduce time and improve their processes. So these are some of the benefits that this particular client gained by implementing the LIMS for sample management. So the first example that we see here is compound processing time. So the specific type of samples that they handled were compounds, and earlier all the compounds had to be processed manually through paper, but by making it digital, the processing time has been over 50% faster. And the second advantage, as I explained earlier, was data traceability. So recording what samples came in, what compounds were processed in paper is prone to errors and may have traceability issues. You will not know who entered what data was modified, why was it modified, when was it modified. All such information is not traceable because it is just written down in paper. By changing all this to a digital environment, there is full accuracy and traceability on every action that is performed on the sample, right from receipt till report generation. And the third advantage that we can see is the throughput capacity, as I explained earlier. So the amount of samples that can be processed and tested simultaneously has substantially increased compared to the previous system. So these are some of the advantages that this particular organization has gained by implementing the LIMS for a use case such as sample management. Of course, the LIMS is not just limited to sample management. It has various other capabilities such as, training personnel, allocating jobs to personnel, managing stabilities, out of specification samples, and various things like that. But here we are just highlighting one of the examples to show you how a laboratory such as this can benefit from adopting a LIMS solution. Next, we'll be taking a look at how these fragmented processes and siloed data can be improved by implementing an electronic lab notebook. The first, we saw an example of a LIMS with a drug discovery solution. Here we are seeing an example for API manufacturing through the electronic lab notebook. So here we have an example of a global API manufacturer who primarily implemented the electronic lab notebook for tracking samples and document management. So this API manufacturer was looking for FDA approval for manufacturing and selling their drugs in the United States, and they wanted a digitally compliant solution to provide end-to-end traceability of all samples within their lab, what tests and experiments and studies were performed with that sample. Let's say you're performing some form of stability study, or if you were doing some form of QC inspection in your sample or finished product. They wanted end-to-end traceability on who performed the test, what data was entered, what was modified, what samples were brought in, who received the sample. So all such information needs to be tracked back to the source. And earlier, when they were doing this in paper, there were a lot of inaccuracies, as in they were not able to keep track of the information that was entered or modified. Let's say if someone goes and changes some form of pre-printed test data sheet in a lab sheet or something, and the FDA comes and audits you saying that what was the reason for this change, what was the previous result, what was the current result, why did you make this modification? If they ask such questions, a paper-based system cannot provide a proper answer, because these kind of solutions, there is no traceability, and there is no proof of why this particular change was made. Was it just made to make the data look better, or was it made because an actual misalignment or out of specification result was found? So in order to mitigate such issues, an electronic lab notebook solution was introduced, and this electronic solution completely streamlined and automated their sample management. So what samples are brought into the lab, who received it, what tests were performed, what are the results, everything is recorded in a digital log kind of format, which rapidly increased their identification of samples and boosted their efficiency. So they were able to trace end-to-end what happened to the sample, what tests were performed, and they were able to collaborate with multiple people within their department. So across their analytical department, stability department, who's performing the assays, they were able to collaborate with people across different locations, and all these actions had become standardized due to the ELN. So the ELN has a templating system where you can create templates for various activities. Let's say you are managing a list of inward samples that are brought into your lab, or let's say you are maintaining an instrument calibration log, or if you are maintaining a template for stability studies. So by standardizing these templates, you can ensure that everyone is following the same process and the same data is being captured in an accurate and error-free manner through digital documentation. So by enabling all these things, you can make sure that the data you are capturing is compliant, accurate, and available. So these are the value propositions that this particular customer has gained through implementing this electronic lab notebook. Now we'll look at some of the benefits that they achieved. So earlier, sample registration was entirely based on paper. They have a pre-printed test form where they note down what sample was received, who received it, what date it was received, and this is prone to errors. Someone might enter the date wrongly, or someone might enter the specifications for the sample wrongly. So by controlling all this and making it digital, they are making it entirely error-free, which has reduced the transcription errors by over 70%. Earlier, there were a lot of transcription errors which was reduced to less than 10% by adopting the digital solution. And the number of observations that were found by the FDA have also been reduced by a lot. So when they were audited by the FDA a couple of years ago, when they did not use the electronic lab notebook, there were 5 to 7 observations that were related to the integrity of data and compliance. But after implementing the electronic notebook, these number of observations have been reduced to 0, and they have regained their ability to manufacture and sell their drugs in the United States through the electronic lab notebook. So these are some of the benefits that one can gain through digitalization through the electronic lab notebook. Next, we'll be seeing what happens to data convergence through the scientific data management system. As I explained earlier, the scientific data management system is an instrument data storage system. So let's say you have multiple analytical instruments within your lab, and you want to collect all the information that is being generated as output through these analytical instruments, store them in one central repository, and readily share this information with other solutions such as your SAP, LIMS, or electronic lab notebook. That is when the scientific data management comes in. And for this example, we'll be looking at a leading biopharmaceutical company who was an early innovator of the COVID-19 vaccine. So as you know, during the COVID era, a lot of companies popped up who performed manufacturing for the COVID-19 vaccine. And for this, a large volume of data was required in order to test these various vaccines, perform studies, release these vaccines, manufacture them, and make them available for end usage. Since the time frame was limited, a large volume of samples need to be tested on a day-to-day basis. And due to this, a large volume of instruments data also needs to be collected and processed. So they primarily used Empower and Chromeleon series for automated data processing. So whenever the instrument generates some form of output, the SDMS acts as the place where the relevant information is automatically captured by the system and stored in one central secure repository. And the data of interest from this repository is readily shared with other solutions such as the laboratory information management system. So if you are testing a finished product such as the vaccine or a specific sample for with which you are testing the vaccine on, the instrument run can automatically send the data to the LIMS system, eliminating manual transcription. So you don't need to print out the instrument results or reports and manually attach them to test data sheets and all those things. The data can seamlessly flow from the SDMS to the LIMS and to other systems without you having to key in things manually, which can drastically increase your compliance level and data integrity level. So what you are getting is the pure raw output out of the instrument without any kind of modifications to the data, which makes it highly reliable and trustable and compliant with Alcoa principles as well. So some of the various benefits that this organization gained through implementing the SDMS is connecting all their disparate systems into one single source of truth. So they have the LIMS, they have the ELN, they have other digital systems that they have already implemented, but data is not readily shared between these systems because they are separate data lakes. So the SDMS acted as a bridge between these different solutions by seamlessly sharing data between them, making it the single source of truth for all their instrument data. And the data processing speed for their instruments over batches has also drastically increased by a lot. So for a specific batch of sample, while it takes some time to manually extract the information, print it out, sign it off, and all these things, if you're doing it digitally, it is almost real time. As in, when the instrument generates the data, it gets automatically pushed to all these digital systems, making it real time and also highly efficient, reducing the cost of paper by over 75% as opposed to using paper-based systems. So this is an example that we can see through SDMS as to how a biopharmaceutical company, by adopting an instrument integration solution like SDMS, has benefited by moving to a digital system. So these are the 3 benefits that we wanted to highlight as a part of what digitalization can do for your laboratory while adopting these 3 different solutions.
Yeah. Well said, Sudarshan, because solutions are not new to this world, because LIMS, ELN, and SDMS are been in the industry since ages. However, when you are explaining that with a real-time example that is coming directly from your current customers, it is really interesting for us to see, like, is this how the benefits that they are having at their end? And now I understand why you call LIMS as a sample-centric and ELN as a task-centric and SDM as data-centric, because having solutions in place, but if the data is not clean, that is where we also see that as a concern. And that's where GVW is going to help in doing the data cleansing, gathering, organizing, exchanging, curating. That is going to help them to see the right data in the solutions at the right time. And we have another interesting LinkedIn poll survey that thrown a different perspective to understand of these solutions, which they see as crucial for a seamless data flow. So because these are disparate systems or solutions, however, only when they're interfaced, we see like a data is flowing from one end to another end, or what we regularly call as an end-to-end data flow. So surprisingly, LIMS and ELN interface is what majoritarily being expected in the industries, to see that there is an ease of exchange. And when we see this option getting more than 50% from the participants, we understand that the connectedness between the research, R&D, and manufacturing is where they are really seeing the exchange of data to happen at a faster pace. Yeah. So having said that, can you throw us some insights about the lab ecosystem to see like how they are getting connected or what kind of interface? I think that would be much interesting for us.
Yeah. Thanks, Gayatri. So here we'll be looking at the lab's digital roadmap to building a connected ecosystem. So till now, I talked about what are the different solutions that are available, what are the different use cases that these solutions can be used for. But now I'll be giving you a roadmap on how to integrate these systems over a period of time. So the first step that we recommend generally is to adopt the laboratory information management system, which can manage the various samples, workflows within your lab, recording results, reviewing and approving of tests, managing your inventory, and all these things. So the laboratory information management system is the core of building the digitally connected ecosystem. The next step can be the electronic lab notebook. Since the LIMS is a structured application, as I explained earlier, it can record the final results of a test. But what happens to the procedures or SOPs that you follow for executing that said test? So that is where the electronic lab notebook comes in. So it can record the experimental procedures, tests, tasks, or logs, or whatever data that is executed for performing that particular test. So the electronic lab notebook is more of an execution system. And finally, the scientific data management system comes in, which can store the instrument raw data and metadata in a secure, compliant manner and readily share such information with the electronic lab notebook while the experiment is being performed, which in turn pushes the final result of the experiment to the LIMS system. So these three solutions together will help you in building the connected ecosystem for your lab. So basically, what I would like to stress here is adopting any one of these solutions is fine initially, but as your laboratory scales and grows in number, then each of these solutions will digitally enhance your lab as your lab scales over a period of time. So depending on how much volume of samples you're testing, depending on how much experiments you're performing over a period of time, depending on the throughput of your lab, you can pick and choose which one of these solutions will be the best fit for your lab. So these can be implemented in any order. We are just giving you an example of implementing the LIMS first, and then going for the electronic lab notebook, followed by the scientific data management system. But if your need, let's say you're using the LIMS in a very simple manner and you just want sample management or experiment execution, in such a case, the electronic lab notebook might be a better fit for you to implement first, followed by the lab information management system if your throughput increases in the future. So these two solutions can be interchangeable to a certain extent. The LN can perform about 60 to 70% of the use cases of a LIMS without having its complexities in place while still being compliant to all the regulatory compliance requirements. So the ELN can also be a good starting point for your requirements. But if your lab is already big and you already have handle a large throughput of samples and a large volume of instruments, then starting with a LIMS or an SDMS would be good. But just having one of these solutions over a period of time is also not ideal, because you would ideally want data to be seamlessly interchanged between these three instruments to make your lab truly digitally enabled. Just having one solution might be enough for now, but if you want to have true paperless compliance, then the combination of all three solutions is recommended to building a connected ecosystem. Okay. So next, we'll be talking about what these solutions can do to address the challenges that were discussed by my colleague Durga Prasad earlier. So earlier he had talked about risk of compliance and risk of losing the integrity of the data, low efficiency and productivity, and possibility of human errors and poor traceability on data, and high costs, resource waste, security vulnerabilities, etc. So these are some of the challenges that were discussed earlier. And what do these digital solutions do to address these challenges? That is what I'll be talking about in this slide. So for compliance risk, all these solutions have built-in capabilities for audit trails, e-signatures, user roles, rights, etc. to make sure that people do not have access to data that they do not have permissions for. Every single action that is being performed within these systems is digitally tracked with electronic signatures and audit trails. So who did what data was entered, what data was modified, when was it modified, why was it modified. All such things are digitally recorded by the system, making it tamper-proof. So there is no delete within these systems. So there is full traceability on what happened to the data right from when it comes in to right when it goes out, ensuring compliance and data integrity. Second point is low efficiency and productivity, where instantaneous data sharing, such as sharing any information within the system to someone across the globe or someone working across different departments, or combining workflows across, let's say, your analytical lab, upstream labs, downstream labs, regardless of any type of lab you are working in, streamlining workflows across these different departments is easier in a digital solution. And with regards to human errors and traceability, these kind of systems can also introduce real-time errors checking to flag inaccurate results or invalid data to make sure that the data you're entering is accurate and reliable. And since it is integrated directly with your laboratory's instruments, the data comes in as is and is not entered manually by a human, which reduces errors. And the next thing is, connecting all your disconnected systems into one unified interface. So if you're recording things on paper, there is no connection between data written in one paper and another paper unless you are manually holding them together. But this kind of digital systems are, seamlessly integrated and enable collaboration across, different forms of data. And in terms of high cost and resource wastage also, since this is pretty self-explanatory, but digital solutions reduce administrative costs. You need not spend much on paper. You need not spend time, deciding how to manage your paper-based records, how to preserve your paper-based records for a longer term, especially when you are in a regulated environment. You might need to preserve your data for years to come. A digital solution will eliminate such worries and will enable you to retrieve any piece of information that you stored in the last, decade instantly without having to worry about whether the paper-based record exists or not. So there is full end-to-end traceability. And the final point is security and disaster vulnerabilities, where these kind of digital solutions come with automated backups and robust data protection, so that in case you lose access to your data or if your data is missing, a backup is always available, and only secure authorized users will be able to access your said information, which can avoid security and disaster risks. So these are some of the various ways in which a digitalized solution in lab informatics, especially in a GxP environment, can address the challenges that many regulated environments face by using paper-based systems.
Yeah, that's a well-structured ecosystem, Sudarshan, and that's really throwing more insights to us to understand it's not just that a unidirectional and a bidirectional flow across the solutions is going to help them to see a seamless data flow. And also the interesting part is, like when you were mentioning that not having just one solution is going to answer all their problems. So in that case, most of the companies, they have the dispatch systems or the solutions in place, but when they are made connected, that is when they see the scalability of the solutions is what we understand from the ecosystem. Thank you for bringing that in a well-structured way. So having said that, and another interesting LinkedIn poll, which is directly related to this situation is, so now that we have seen about LIMS, ELN, SDMS, of which would be the crucial role play of a vendor? Because the vendor perception has been drastically transformed the last decade is what we really understand upon seeing this answer. So previously it was like just a vendor will come, they just install the solution and they just go off. However, now the perception has been in a different way, to the extent where they really want us to do a trusted advisory role, a seamless operational role, and also they would see us to an extent where we play a part in driving their tech adoption. That's a very good and welcomeable change from the industry's mindset perspective when they look a vendor not just that as a solution provider, but also they would like us to stay back and drive the tech adoption for their business. Yeah. So having said that, we want to understand, are we really doing digital or being digital?
Yeah. So typically, if you see, most of the organizations in today's scenario, they are following three situations, whether they are in pre-digital era, which is obviously high risk, data silos will be there and there will be low collaboration. or they are doing digital phase, like still they implemented some solutions, but still I can say it's a moderate risk. There will be partial integration and some silos. So the real digital maturity will come when they are being digital. That is a low risk phase, which all solutions are fully integrated, where will be maximum collaboration. So that will be being digital phase. So just ask, so where do you see your organization today and where do you want to be? So if you want to go from doing digital to being digital, having a solution is not enough. So we have to follow some enablers to make it possible. So now I'm going to discuss about 5 core pillars, how you're successful by using these core pillars. So the first one, clear vision and strategy. So clear vision and strategy is important to highlight laboratory digitalization values and demonstrating its benefits to each individual of your organization and also to the whole organization to have maximum benefit. And due to this clear vision, there will be a collaboration between research, development, and manufacturing, what we call as a digital thread. So when you have this digital thread, there will be seamless collaboration between all of the departments, to which enhances the laboratory digitalization process. Then planning and migration. So this is an important phase. So where you will invest sufficient time in requirement gathering so that you will have a as is a to be flow, a proper flow, and also the phase you can optimize your processes, because if you have a difficult process in a physical paper process, so if you adapt to the same, it won't work out, it won't give you 100% results. So you have to optimize your process. And also this is the phase where you can document your lab workflows, where you can identify the data types and what are the instruments you need to integrate with each other. And also if you are planning to handle legacy data, plan well ahead for data migration and data curation, which includes data standardization and data cleansing, and also master data management steps, so which most organizations are underestimate that phase. So we have to take care of all these processes well ahead. And also one practical tip I want to share here is try to prefer out of the box products. So if you over customize the solution for each unique detail of process, what will happen is implementation will be tougher and validation will be difficult. So you can do if your adopted system doesn't leverage what your business and compliance needs. So then you can optimize the processes and you can configure the system. Otherwise, stick to out of the box product, which will ease your job. And governance model. So a clear governance model like the functional and IT team is important to have budgetary controls. So well governance model enables you to stay your project within the budget and within the timeline. So you can finish your laboratory digitalization well ahead of time within the limited budget where you have planned. And also consider enterprise-wide SLT model so that it can be scalable to future as well. And team and execution. So this is where you will set up your project team. So you can have a well talent and trained talents where they can spend sufficient time each week, so that normally they will have a cross-functional collaboration team where there will be IT, QA, lab analyst and end users, so that you can connect all their opinion. And if you don't have any experienced person in your organization, so try to engage a third-party links or ELN specialist, so that he can guide you how to optimize the workflows and how to implement a better out-of-the-box product. And technology integration. So technology integration is a key enabler for laboratory digitalization success. So where you will plan what are the systems you want to integrate with each other. And when coming to data architecture, consider a robust data architecture, like centralized data architecture and a stronger connectivity for network integration when you are integrating any laboratory instruments. And this will enable data across your teams. And also, while deploying the model, whether you are considering on-premises or cloud, it should be scalable and it should be future-proof, because your lab will grow in future as the samples are growing and the data is growing. So it should handle the data efficiently in the future as well. So by planning this technology part well ahead, so you can concentrate on the optimization of your processes rather than worrying on IT issues well ahead. So these are the 5 key foundational enablers you need to focus in your organizations to have maximum digitalization success. And okay, now you got what are the solution, what are the for what solution you can use for the challenges in laboratories, and what are the enablers that will give you more success in the digitalization phase. But once you take a step to have laboratory digitalization initiative, so how you measure the success? So how you think whether my laboratory digitalization is effectively? So I would like to share 3 key dimensions to take this forward. So the first one is value creation. So transforming from paper to paperless not only is sufficient, it should give you a financial outcome. So that value creation, you have to ask a question like, are my operational KPIs like turnaround times, error rates, are turning into financial benefits? Are you saving money on this digitalization initiative? So these are the key factors you have to ask yourself. So if the answer is yes, you are going in the right direction. Then you have to check team health. So team health, it should give a positive impact on your team if you have a laboratory digitalization, because you need to observe whether the low performing team is transforming to high performing team. You have to ensure that, and also you have to ensure that whether your team is happy and productive and confident by reducing the manual workload to paperless work. So that you need to ensure your team health. And change management process. So one of the key important factor is change management process, because how smoothly the laboratory digitalization process is integrated into our current process, that you have to ensure. So just check whether the teams are planning as per mobilizing as per plan, and whether the team is building the capabilities and talent to leverage the laboratory digitalization solutions, and whether the people are using seamlessly what are the technology tools and products. So these 3 balanced approach will give you measure the success of digital transformation, so that you can have enhanced compliance and higher productivity. So obviously a better patient safety, I can say.
So having said that, when you're speaking about doing digital, being digital, starting from the pre-digital, I really remember the phrase crawl, walk, run. Are you at which phase? At a pre-digital stage where you call it as a crawling, at a digital, doing digital as walking, and being digital where you have an end-to-end connectedness and seamless data flow where we see that as a running phase. Also, that's a very good question we have seen in the chat box, which is relevant to what Durga Prasad has explained about either choosing an out-of-the-box functionality or going for customization. So customization is really required when you see that such a process steps cannot be eliminated or it's need of the hour. But if that's not the case, even the mindset of the labs should be in a place like you should be welcoming the out-of-the-box functionality, which handles closely 70 to 80% of your requirements. So that's how you start with that. So we have the last LinkedIn survey, which is in continuation to what we have discussed. So sorry, that was the last poll that we have on the chat box screen. Thank you, Pragati, for the poll question. This was the last. Now that we have understood the solutions and the digital journey, in industries, what is the biggest challenge that is seen when investing in a digital solution? Is it a financial restrictions, commitment of resources, changing company priorities, and whether driving strong digital adoption? So the live poll is on the chat box. We have another 30 seconds to close this chat box. As we see the responses coming in, budget and followed by strong digital adoption, because if you have the planning done at a strong pace, that is going to drive your digital adoption. Yeah. So we would like to conclude with the paper to pixels evolution process. Sudarshan?
Yeah. Thanks, Gayatri, for the insight. So as a finishing note, I would like to quickly summarize what we had gone through so far. So we had looked at challenges, what are the key drivers, what are the various products or solutions that can be used to address said challenges, how to know if you've implemented the solutions properly, and what are the things that need to be taken care of during implementation. So these are the various topics that we covered in today's webinar. And as a closing note, I would like to say true digital transformation happens not when the solution is ready, but when the people are ready. They will need to, truly adopt and use these solutions on a day-to-day basis in order to achieve true digital transformation. We can implement the solution, we can give them the tools available for their needs, but the true adoption only happens when the people actually try and adopt their solutions for their day-to-day processes and try to change their existing processes to fit these solutions in order to achieve better digitalization and compliance. It can only be viewed as a continuous improvement process over a period of time. No one can achieve digitalization in one night. Companies have been trying for years and failed. Some have been extremely successful, some have failed. The important thing is to start. And as you start and slowly implement these solutions over a period of time, as you scale along with your organization, then you will be able to achieve digitalization within a couple of years. So that is what I want to stress as the finishing note for this webinar. And now we are opening up the floor for questions. So if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat and we'll be able to address them one by one. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Yes, Sudarshan, we understand that we slightly run over time, but still we have a little room for a couple of questions. I see a couple of interesting questions that was put up in the chat box. And